Hey, it's Jordan. I am here in Flint, Michigan. We are at the home of Amanda Janes, and we're here in Flint. We just broke a pretty big story a few days ago. So if you everybody is focused on the midterms and other things, so you might have not seen it. We'll put it in the description box of this live stream. But starting over the summer, Jen and I, we were in Flint, Michigan. We were working on another story in Flint, Michigan. And we're on YouTube too?
We're on everything.
Okay. We were working on a story in Flint, Michigan, and as part of that story, one of the residents here was describing to me that when his water was tested, state officials had allowed it to run before they collected the sample. So basically, the EPA, their rules for water sampling, that is when you're checking for lead. Obviously, Flint had a catastrophic lead poisoning starting in 2014. So when you're checking for lead, you're supposed to have your water not be used at all for the minimum of 6 hours. So not supposed to use your water for 6 hours. You're supposed to then turn on the water and put a sample bottle right under the water, like immediately. They call it first draw. So you turn on the water, put the sample bottle right under, let the sample bottle fill, and go on with your day. So we were told by a resident that officials had come to his home and they let the water run for several minutes. So, you know, I at the time didn't even know that was a problem, but just on a kind of on instinct, I started asking some other people we knew in Flint. And what do you know? Another resident told me, oh, officials came to my home and that's how they did it. They let the water run for a few minutes and then they took the sample. So that's what started Jen and my reporting. Ty joined us in the middle of it. We knocked on over 400 doors in Flint, including this home in Flint, basically to survey residents and see, was your home ever tested for lead after the crisis became a national story? And if so, how was your home tested? And what was actually supposed to happen, is the residents on the official state testing group. They called this the Sentinel test in Flint. Basically, the state chose originally 650 homes that would be tested repeatedly over a course of 2 years to basically see, are the lead levels improving? This started in 2016. It's gone all the way through this year. So we knocked on all these doors to see had state officials came and tested the wrong way, but we found out actually, the state was supposed to leave the test kits for the residents to do the sampling. The state was not supposed to be testing for residents. So there's a lot of things here, but to really just like at its baseline, what we found was in at least 31 homes, state officials basically cooked the data. They tested the wrong way. They let the water run, in some cases, for 10 to 15 minutes. And by doing so, you're basically flushing the lead out. So when you put the sample bottle in, voila, this home has no lead. So that story is up on Status Quo's Medium page. Jen will put it in the description box. And so far, we've had some pretty good traction on it. Congressman Ro Khanna has called for an investigation, as has Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. So now that you guys kind of know the basics, I knocked on your door, which has no soliciting. So you probably were like, who are these people? What are they selling us? So I just kind of want to start. You're 35. You've lived in Flint your entire life. And for the most part, before 2014, when they switched the water, correct me if I'm wrong, you've never really had major health problems.
No, never. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just was healthy until then.
Okay, so they switched the water April 2014, and after, the state was saying no problem, even though people are complaining, nosebleeds, hair loss, rashes, all this stuff. After April 2014, when is the first time you started experiencing symptoms of anything?
Not like right after the switch, but a few months. Like I started getting tired and just all around just not feeling good. Like my skin did itch and stuff. My husband has the same issues. Like his skin he takes showers every day. and his skin just gets really itchy and irritated. So probably a few months, but not too much longer after the switch. Which when they said they were going to do the switch, I'm like, that's not a good idea. So.
You didn't think it was a good idea because of the Flint River?
Yeah, I grew up here. You hear about the Flint River, it's nasty. I wouldn't even let my kids swim in it.
So okay, so you started feeling tired, run down, and around like winter of 2015, you got a visit from a state official. Tell me about that.
He knocked on the door, which, you can see my sign outside, no soliciting, pretty much everybody, don't knock on my door. And he's like, no, I'm here at the state of Michigan. I need to test your water. And I was like, okay. And he just came in and was telling me all about it. And I was like, okay. And he's asked me if my water smelled different or if I noticed anything. I was like, no, not that I can tell. So, and then he turned on the water, let it run. And then he put his bottle underneath there. And he's like, okay, well, you're going to get some more bottles. I'll be back. This is how you do it.
And how long would you say he let it run before he put the sample bottle in?
Oh, it was a good minute. He just let it run. I was like, okay. And then he said that's how you do it.
Did he say was he explaining we let the water run first because, or it just kind of that's what he did?
That's just what he did. And he's just like, that's how you test. That's how you do it. Turn on the faucet, put your sample under. He didn't say the things that you get from Quora says don't run your water for 6 hours, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't even ask me if, we had flushed our toilets, used the water, did anything. I was, you see, I got 3 kids. They're turning on the faucet every minute or going to the bathroom. So probably when he got here, it's been used. Right now, the sink that we have now wasn't the one that we had when they got here. It was one where you couldn't put a filter on it. So.
Why that's so important? So you might think all right, they ran it for a minute, whatever. We have in our story plumbers on the record, Aaron Brockovich on the record, a lot of people on the record. If you let the water run even for 30 seconds, you could be flushing out sizable quantities of lead, of copper, of other heavy metals, because a lot of the lead is actually from the internal house plumbing. It's from the internal fixtures. So when you're letting the water run for that long, you could be actually flushing away the worst of it in that 30 seconds to a minute. I mean, we've had some people that said they ran it for 10 minutes before taking the sample. All right, so he ran your water for a minute, and then you might have not known, but you were part of the official state focus group. They called it the Sentinel group. And this was the very focus group of homes that Governor Snyder and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, they used these homes on the Sentinel program to say Flint's overall lead levels are lowering and then ultimately falling below the EPA's regulatory level of 15 parts per billion. So they used these homes basically as the measuring stick, declaring water restored, as Governor Snyder said in April. And it was these homes, these Sentinel homes, that they cited to shut down the free water stations that were around the city, where residents like Amanda over the last few years can go and get bottled water. They cited other independent tests as well, but the main test was the homes like Amanda that were on the program. And those Sentinel homes, number one, he was not supposed to be testing your water for you, which you probably didn't know. They were supposed to drop it off for the residents to do it. And number two, part of the problem is he illegally tested your water, but you were going to be the one testing after that. So how many times did you test after that yourself?
Like you said, I think they were supposed to drop the bottles off, but they never did. You'd have to go to the firehouse, which lays down off of, I believe that's Dort, maybe, over there. You'd have to go pick them up with your case of water that you got. You'd pick up a bottle, and then Core would come back and pick up your sample that was sitting out there. So
when you tested it yourself after he left,
the exact same thing that he did, just turn the water on, and I probably forgot the water was running for a minute, and then just threw the bottle under there, put the cap on, set it outside.
And he told you, his words were, you're going to do it exactly the way I do it.
Yeah, you just do it exactly the same way I did it. When you get your bottle, I'm like, okay, I didn't think nothing of it, and just turned the water on, probably went, poured a bowl of cereal, and then came back and put the water in and took it outside.
So I want to be clear because we're not doctors. So, like, I'm not drawing cause and effect. I don't know exactly what has caused her cancer, which we're about to get into. But what I do know is she was not sick before April 2014. And what we do know is you started having real bad fatigue and other things. So tell me about, you started feeling real tired and what other symptoms?
I was really tired. I had really bad headaches. I had to go see a neurologist, and I think it was 2015, like end of 2014, early 2015, I started seeing a neurologist, and, you know, they were testing my blood and stuff, did the thyroid test. Nothing ever came with thyroid until later in 2015, early 2016, when they...
But the important thing is, because he told you, because the results came back no lead, you kept drinking.
Yeah, until we got the sink fixed. The free plumbers came in, and we were able to get on the list to get the sink fixed because we couldn't put a filter on it, and we had a zero pitcher, but it takes up. It sounds so lazy, but it takes a long time to cook any type of food, and for 3 kids, time is like, I'm hungry now, so I was like, screw it, just turn on the water, and it said it came back fine. Like my husband said, it came back fine. We were cooking with it, drinking it, doing everything. And we still had bottled water to drink, but I'm not going to sit here and keep open up bottled water when I just turn on the tap if it was fine.
Right. And how long would you say you went back to drinking it after they told you it was fine? Like how long did you keep drinking?
I was still drinking it. Like, probably even the neighbor lady was probably still drinking it. Like, she'll even tell you today that it's still fine. There's nothing wrong with the water. Because over here, nothing ever came back, like, high lead, like, we had a copper count, but it wasn't within, like, a horrible limit or something, which, like, they're talking about lead, but not copper, so.
But the point is, you went back and you drank it basically for months, a year?
Until they came in and fixed the plumbing, and then we were able to fit a filter on it.
Right. And, who knows? Like, if they would have tested the right way, maybe your home didn't have high levels of lead. We don't know. But what we do know is if you run the water, even for 30 seconds to a minute, it's going to artificially lower it, which, by the way, the EPA told us that. Aaron Brockovich told us that. Plumbers told us that. Many, many people told us, and research tells you that. Actually, Washington's environmental agency, Washington, D.C.'s agency, did a 10-minute flushing study to see how much flushing lowers lead levels. They got homes with over 300 parts per billion of lead. 300 parts per billion of lead is a lot of lead, like hazardous. So they chose homes with over 300 parts per billion. They ran the water for 10 minutes, and the average lead result was 13 parts per billion. So it went from 300 down to 13.